Good evening. I'm here to give you an update on some of the events of today. What honestly is one of the most horrific and difficult days that Farmington has ever had as a community. During the course of today, an active shooter engaged numerous citizens and then finally was engaged by the police before the rampage stopped. At the end of the day, 10 people were injured, 4 of them killed, including the suspect. I'm going to recount for you some of the events and timeline that we know today, and then try and dispel some of the rumors that I know are going on out there, and give you the best facts that we have today. We'll continue to update you as we go along over the next few days, and during the course of this, you'll hear why I don't know all the answers right now. So officers were dispatched to the vicinity of Dustin and Ute at about 10:57 a.m. this morning. The report was shots being fired in the area. The first officer on scene came in at 11:02, and at 11:05 it was announced that shots had been fired by officers and that the suspect was down, and almost simultaneously that an officer had been shot as well. Then about a minute or so, officers had begun transporting the wounded officer to the hospital, to San Juan Regional Medical Center, and the officer was being treated there within just a few minutes. All told, during the course of the event, the suspect, who's identified as an 18-year-old male, fired at least 3 different weapons that we can confirm at this point, including one being an AR-style rifle. 3 citizens were killed, 2 officers were wounded, 4 other citizens were injured, and the suspect ultimately was shot and killed by responding officers. The event is difficult to understand how something like this happens, but we are doing the best that we can to piece through and talk with family members of the suspect, piece through what was going on, look at the evidence to see if we can figure out what the motivation was. But at this point, it appears to be purely random, that there was no schools, no churches, no individuals targeted. During the course of the event, the suspect roamed throughout the neighborhood up to a quarter of a mile. At least 6 houses and 3 cars were shot in the course of the event, as the suspect randomly fired at whatever entered his head to shoot at during the course of the event. Responding officers were able to locate him in the 700 block of North Dustin and engaged him, and the suspect was shot at least 1 time and was killed there at the scene by responding officers. I don't even know what to say on an event like this. How do you address it? I have my deepest condolences to the family of the deceased. I'm unbelievably proud of responding officers with the threat that they faced, with the chaos of the scene and all the calls that came in. We had at least 9 calls to dispatch, putting information all over the place about where the suspect was. They could hear gunfire. Some were giving locations. The suspect's moving. We're responding the best that we can to pin down the suspect's location. And then when they do, there's an exchange of gunfire, and at least 1 Farmington officer was shot. A second officer, a state police officer that was responding, was shot as well. That officer drove himself to the hospital. I talked with Colonel Tim Johnson from the state police. The officer is still in the hospital. He's doing well at this moment, and our officer has been treated and released as well. But it's just a devastating day. So on the one hand, I'm deeply proud of the response. Really, it was 3 agencies. It was the sheriff's office, the Farmington Police Department and the state police all responded over and did their best to locate. And some of the rumors that I know started during the course of the response, when people are listening to the radio, to the police scanner, you're listening to officers live trying to figure out what's going on. We had multiple calls coming in. Initially, it was believed possible that there was a second shooter. Officers were aggressively looking around for a second shooter. We locked down schools in the area because we didn't know where any other suspects could be. But at the end of it, it does not appear there ever was a second shooter. It appears it was just this one suspect that we were able to stop. Other rumors, I know will continue to come up. But like I said, it appears to be completely random. There was no targeting of specific victims that we can identify at this stage. Now, all of that is very early in a look at an extremely wide and complex scene. Like I said, over a quarter of a mile, suspect firing from 3 different weapons, suspect being engaged by officers. So figuring out everything that happened will take us time. And we will continue to update you as we go along. Tomorrow at 2:00 for the media, we will have a press conference at the police department, and we'll give you the latest that we have at that point. But for tonight, as I sign off on what has been just an unbelievable day, a devastating day for our community in so many ways, I want to thank the officers and their families who responded and confronted this threat. And I send out my deepest condolences, and I know the whole community does, to the victims. And we will provide you more information as it becomes available. Thank you, and God bless us.